This is the Monkey D. Luffy character sheet from Dawn of Liberation. And this is what his character sheet originally looked like at the very, very beginning of design. We'll also be talking about Zoro. So Zoro's right there. And this is the final character sheet for Zoro in the game. They are both two of the 21 playable characters in Dawn of Liberation, which is coming to Kickstarter March 3rd, this Tuesday. If you don't know about it, you should follow, hit that subscribe button, but also go follow the Kickstarter and make sure to be there on day one. So the initial core concept of the game was that you would get two characters, a bunch of random ones, similar to what we play right now, where you get up to 4, but you start with two characters, and those dashboards would combine to create one full action dashboard. Each character would have a different strength die. In this case, it was D8s, and then represented by 3 strength. And then each of them would have different stats: stamina, produce, recruit, discover, and a special ability. In addition to that, they would have a move stat and obviously their name. Those stats are also supposed to be increasable. So specifically with Luffy, you could see he had a special ability that if he recruited and there were 10 or more samurai in the space he recruited, he would be able to train one, increasing one of these stats by 1. He would also have a version of advantage where he would roll his dice for attacks 3 times, and whatever the result was, he'd pick the best one. This system was originally based on the scythe mechanic, where you get 2 different boards and you can combine them together, and that's kind of where I started here, with a D&D flavor to it. This eventually evolved here. Training the stats became really fiddly, so just having characters have flat stats or core stats were strength, produce, recruit, discover. We then get into a world where you now have the captain and the crew, and we create that world here. Still rolling D6s as straight D6s, though Luffy's ability did change for a second to something new. Produce was gather for one section of the game's history, and there were 4 stats. Here, the big change was we got rid of the gather stat. You now have recruit, cunning, and strength, but you have an inventory slot that lets you hold inventory on your character. And Luffy and Zoro now have the ability they've had since this window. These are the 2 abilities they have now. Zoro now just get 3 swords at the beginning of the game, but this is basically where they sit. The next one is the big change to the 3 different stats, and then you also have the support stats below, and you now have starting locations as well. And then you get to the next point where we started creating the power-up versions of the characters. So now characters can be powered up in between versions. And last but not least, we had an additional evolution where Zoro gains the ability to start the game with 3 swords, has enough inventory slots to hold all 3 swords. You can see here, start with 3 weapons in your inventory. You may reroll up to 3 of your player dice as long as you have 3 weapons in your inventory. We did make a change where these became plus numbers to the captain die or the die you're rolling versus flat rates. When we made the change, these just have standard numbers versus just the icon appearing multiple times. We made that switch over. It also was confusing that you always got a captain dice and you had to subtract your captain die from your number. This was a simpler solution to that problem. At this point, we also were able to start doing the graphic design elements. I no longer have the files as they evolved from that point onward because that is in the graphic designer hands versus my designer computer. Wonderful Photoshop is my special interest world. But from an ability perspective, most things had not changed since this period, especially for Luffy and Zoro. Again, this game will be live on Kickstarter March 3rd, this Tuesday. If you get there on day 1, you get a chance to be able to get the cleared Onigashima Dice Tower for free as the Kickstarter exclusive.